Chapter 241. Heifer pondered for a few seconds and nodded happily. Okay, I agree. As soon as she finished speaking, the golden contract in Ares's hand turned into golden sand and scattered with the wind. You're dead. Ares did not even look at Diana, who was originally arranged to be his lifelong enemy. Instead, he raised his two long swords and rushed towards Thea with a ferocious look on his face. Heifer also had a wicked smile on her face. She carried her axe and joined in the game of chasing after Thea. Thea looked at Ares's scarlet eyes and was full of helplessness. How did things become like this? She did not dare to fight back in the face of the two aggressive people. Ares had indeed consumed half of his divine power, but she had consumed more. She could only use the old method, which was to continue running. In order to take care of Diana, who could not fly yet, Thea chose to fly close to the ground. The scene was extremely ugly for a moment. The four of them were in groups of two and were all moving in a straight line. Thea ran in front and occasionally turned back to shoot a few arrows. Diana ran and blocked all kinds of attacks for her. Ares and Heifer ignored Diana and aimed at Thea. The fight was so ugly that Ares, as the god of war, felt full of shame. He kept scolding Thea and asked her to stop and fight one-on-one with him. How stupid would Thea be to fight one-on-one with him? She acted as if she did not hear him and led this strange team around the village in irregular circles. Inspired by his one-on-one fight, Diana also asked Ares to stop and fight one-on-one with her. She talked about the traditions of the people and the rules of the battle of gods. But now that Ares' strength was reduced by half, he was not confident that he could defeat Diana, who did not consume much energy. He could only copy Thea and pretend that he did not hear her. In ancient wars, it was a very shameful thing to attack the opponent's mount. However, in order to catch up with Thea, Ares no longer cared about his reputation as the god of war and attacked her skateboard like a madman. Unfortunately, Thea really worked hard on operating the skateboard. She was sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes high, and sometimes low. She was so agile that Ares's several attacks were in vain. For the sake of his reputation, Ares had to give up attacking the skateboard and continue to chase after Thea. When it circled the village for the 5th time, the little heifer was very happy and laughed happily. What are you laughing about? Are you seriously chasing after her? You should be faster in this damn enchantment. Smoke was coming out of Ares's forehead. Needless to say, he was angry. Now that he saw Heifer being so happy as if she was playing a game, he immediately scolded her. Heifer stared at him with a pair of innocent eyes and attacked Thea twice with her axe. But they were all blocked by the agile Diana. Heifer blinked at Ares, which meant, "Did you see that? I tried my best. I'm only at this level." Her perfunctory attitude made Ares feel dizzy. Fortunately, he still remembered that she was his helper. Otherwise, with his usual temper, he would have killed her. Thea naturally saw Heifer's passive attitude. She silently cast a spell on the arrow. Thea shouted, "Diana, get out of the way." In the blink of an eye, Thea shot an earthy yellow magic arrow at the ground, creating a huge pit in the path that Roland had to pass through. Diana got the hint and dodged it with a big jump. Ares was an experienced fighter. Plus, he knew a few of Thea's attack methods. When he saw her shooting the arrow to the ground, he flew up without hesitation. There was a loud splash. "Oh no! I fell into the pit. I can't get out. Lord Ares, I've let you down." Heifer jumped into the pit in an exaggerated manner and exchanged a knowing look with Thea. She then shouted loudly and refused to come out no matter what. Ares could no longer suppress his anger. He scolded them in the divine realm for a long time, but when he realized that they could not understand him, he changed to English. But no matter how harsh his words were, it could not change the fact. Without the heifer's encirclement, Thea released the elk to block his path and successfully stopped him. After that, she ran out of his attack range in a flash. Only Diana, who was also full of anger, was left in front of Ares. Thea ran far away and turned back to see that Ares was not chasing after her. She then patted her chest and heaved a sigh of relief. Being chased by a berserk god of war and slashed with all his might would be a terrible thing. Fortunately, She relied on her flexible tactics to get rid of the berserk god of war. But she did not rest too much. Thea knew that Diana was strong enough to defend herself, but she did not have a strong attack method. She wanted to return the Godslayer to her, but the sword's will was so strong that it would not return to Diana's hand. This made Thea more curious about the sword. She estimated that she had recovered about 40% of her magic power during the chase. She summoned her doppelganger again and asked her to provide magic power support. She took out the only 2 crimson arrows of revenge in Zeus' quiver. This arrow had a miraculous effect on sinful women, but it was not impossible to use it as a daily arrow. Artemis' definition of revenge was to be able to fight back no matter how hard the other party hit you. Thea smiled gloomily. Ares, you son of a bitch. You chased me so hard just now. It's time for you to pay the price. Now the whole arrow was entwined with strong divine power. This was not Thea's divine power. It was formed by Ares' attack after the transformation of the law of revenge. As it came from the same source as Ares' divine power, it also had the attribute of being sure to hit. Thea did not aim and shot into the sky. The arrow automatically turned in the air and shot towards Ares, who was still fighting fiercely with Diana. Divine arrow. Ares' vision was still there. He knew about the 2 arrows of the goddess of the moon. Now that he saw the arrow rushing straight towards him, the characteristics and attributes of the arrow instantly flowed through his mind. Damn it! This was different from the previous magic arrow. His body could not withstand this kind of divine arrow. This arrow could completely kill him. Ares did not expect Thea to have been hiding this arrow. Now the divine power on the arrow was extremely strong, and it shot towards his forehead with a fatal threat. Fortunately, the 2 arrows of Artemis were used too many times, and the gods more or less summed up some countermeasures. Ares no longer hesitated. The moment the arrow was close to his body, he created a clone that occupied 30% of his divine power. The arrow hesitated for a moment. It thought that the main body had the most divine power. It turned a small corner in front of Ares and rushed towards the clone. After the clone had just run 2 steps, the arrow caught up with him. The violent explosion of divine power hit both Diana and Ares. Diana was in a good state. With the shield blocking most of the impact, she paid attention to the enemy as if nothing had happened. Ares' situation was not so good. The explosion happened on his side. He did not have any defensive equipment and his strength was slightly weaker. He was directly blown up. When he climbed out of the pile of dust, he wanted to cry but had no tears. The divine power that he had hidden in human society for many years was now only 15% left. How could he fight? Run. Chapter 242. Dreams were beautiful, but reality was cruel. Even though Ares was prepared to make a strategic turn, the youngsters had no intention of letting him go. Diana, who had not consumed much energy since the beginning of the battle, caught up with Ares easily. She activated the lasso of truth instantly, wrapped it around Ares' ankle and pulled him back. Now that Ares' divine power was almost at its lowest point, his attributes were suppressed by Diana. He had no energy left to break free from the lasso of truth. He could only use her pulling force to fight back, hoping to repel Diana and increase the distance between them. Bang! Although Ares was mentally prepared, he still felt a deep sense of fear when Diana caught his punch with all his strength. Diana caught Ares' punch with her right hand. The punch made her take a small step back, but she did not lose her footing. Her eyes shone brightly, and the silver bracelet on her arm began to emit streaks of electricity. Ah! At this time, Diana felt that her strength was increasing by the second. The sudden increase in strength needed a vent. Other than Ares, who was in front of her, was there a better punching bag? Who asked you to harm others? Who asked you to start a war? You evil god! Diana held the lasso of truth with one hand, and every time Ares tried to escape, she would catch him back. She clenched her fist with the other hand and punched him in the face. What do you know? I didn't do it. Originally, Ares did not bother to explain, but as the silver bracelet gradually awakened, the divine weapon that had followed Diana for 5,000 years began to show its power. Diana's punches were getting fiercer and fiercer, and her strength was almost endless. Ares could barely resist the first 2 punches, but after that, his counterattacks were simply defeated. Facing the blame that was placed on him for no reason, Ares felt that he could not beat her, but he could not admit defeat. Maybe when he had the upper hand, he could proudly say that all the bad things in the world were done by him. Bite him if you dare. But now that he was beaten like a dead dog, he no longer had the mood to be brave. All he had was a deep sense of unwillingness. Damn it! What does the war between humans have to do with me? In the face of Diana's relentless attacks, Ares felt as if his body was engulfed in flames. There was anger towards his own weakness, as well as anger towards the world for slandering him. He was a high and mighty god, and he did not admit that he had anything to do with all this. I refuse to accept this. I haven't lost yet. Don't even think about humiliating me. Ares's almost depleted divine power miraculously recovered a little because of his violent anger. But everything in the world, how much you gain, you lose. He gained new power, but the price was heavy. He paid for it with his sanity. In the face of Diana's punch, he only slightly avoided his vital parts and completely gave up on defense. He also threw a punch at Diana. Diana had already launched her attack, and it was too late for her to withdraw her attack. Her silver bracelet of shield protection was useless at this moment, and she could only use her divine power to protect her body and take Ares' furious attack head-on. The attacks of the two hit each other at the same time. Ares was strengthened by the silver bracelet of shield, and Diana was getting stronger and stronger. Ares's left half of his body was smashed, and he flew back 100 meters and plunged into the soil. Diana was much better in comparison. Her divine power was more abundant, and although the defense of the armor on her body was not as good as the shield, it was still a divine artifact. Ares's attack was only a minor injury to her, and she stopped after retreating more than 10 meters. But at this time, she did not have a smug expression at all. She was actually injured by Ares, who was tortured by Thea. Unforgivable. At this time, Thea, who was hiding 2 miles away and secretly observing the battle with the Eye of Horus, was surprised to see that Ares was still able to unleash his explosive power. Originally, after shooting the arrow of revenge, she saw Diana's guardian bracelet begin to show its power. She thought that Ares's defeat was in front of her eyes. She didn't expect that this god of war would recall something and miraculously recover a part of his combat power. Thea was so scared that she quickly shrank her neck. Looking at the red light on Ares's forehead, she knew how angry he was. She didn't have any defensive equipment or skills, so she couldn't go up and block the attack. What? You want me to stab him to death? Are you kidding me? Thea certainly would not hide in a daze. She found that the fake sword could communicate with her mind. The sword kept urging her to stab Diana, but when Thea wanted to throw the sword to Diana, it was unwilling, as if Diana was a scourge. This is going to be difficult. Thea could not help but scratch her head. After a simple communication, she roughly understood the purpose of the sword. It was a little unfair to call it a fake sword. It was originally created by the god of fire, Hephaestus. There were 2 swords. One was the fire god sword that Diana would use in the future, and the other was the fake sword in front of Thea. She did not know what the god of fire had in mind when he created the fake sword, but when he made the sword, he stipulated that the fake sword would fall into the hands of Diana and be destroyed in the battle between the gods. This order was the principle he had when he first created the sword. Although the fake sword had a trace of consciousness after 5,000 years of worship by the female warriors on Paradise Island, it could not resist the original will of the creator. Due to the attention of the gods, it could not tell Diana the truth, could only choose to die silently. However, Thea's unexpected appearance changed its fate drastically. Ares's fierce attack made Diana anxious, so she threw the fake sword to Thea. So, your original mission is still there. You will be destroyed when you return to Diana? Will you be fine? Thea asked doubtfully. The fake sword did not answer her question. Instead, it kept urging her to stab Ares to death. So urgent? Did Ares kill your entire family? Thea rubbed her chin and thought about the problem of the fake sword. Thea had a 60% chance that the fake sword would change drastically once it killed a god. Should she take the risk? As Ares used his divine power to repair his body again and again, although he still had a little divine power, his spirit was showing signs of fatigue. In the face of Diana's increasingly powerful attacks, the frequency of his counterattacks was getting lower and lower. Again, anger was only temporary. Killing the opponent with anger was the privilege of the protagonist. Unfortunately, Ares was not the protagonist. There seemed to be a chance. Thea cast a lot of protective spells on herself and instructed her clone to continuously attack Ares with magic. She wanted to get closer to the battlefield without attracting too much aggro. Ares glanced at the clone and did not care at all. It was already very difficult for him to deal with Diana. A clone with less than 30% of its usual power was not worth his time.